Fafita was too much to handle. The injuries are racking up, and I'm starting to think we're about to go all Hull KR on the season.
Mars is whipping boy, isn't he, Will Mars? So, yeah. DG Knight said, thank you, Wakey, #Coif.
I saw the highlights of this one as well, Mark, and I thought Wakefield almost don't have anything to play for, do they? I suppose they've got the new coach in Willie Poaching, who's obviously trying to make stamp his own mark on it, and
they must like him, mustn't they? The players must like him.
Must do, because you wouldn't have imagined that Wakefield would have had the motivation to get up over Hull KR on this, and when they went 2 scores down early, you'd have thought Hull KR would stretch away and win the game quite comfortably, but no, Wakefield came charging back into the game, and it certainly from the highlights, it looked a very exciting game. It's one that I wish I'd been able to see the whole game.
Yeah, I think you look at Wakey under Poaching, and they beat Warrington. They lost away at Cass, but didn't lose without spirit. They were the better team in the closing stages of that match. So there's something to build from there, and then they've won this game. And so it's got to be. You got to say the interview's going well.
Yeah, very much so. They're playing for him, as you said. They're playing for him, aren't they?
Yeah, and he's got a couple of their big hitters back into their best form in Tanganoa, who it looked like was playing in his wide running second row position that he made his best impact in, I think, in his time at Wakey so far. And for Fafita as well, it sounds like he had a big impact. Maybe it didn't show up as much on the highlights as Tanganoa did, but it sounds like he had a big impact. Tanganoa's bust for Miller's try, that was him at his very best. That strong, fast run, big fend off, and then finding the key pass as well.
Nice try, that.
Yeah, I also thought great play by Tom Johnston for the senior try as well. He weighed up the situation really well, didn't he?
Yeah, that was the try of the game. I thought that in his senior try.
But in the story of the game, Rovers scored 2 really easy tries, actually, when you look. Quite early on as well, in the first 15 minutes or so of the match, they were
push over
10-0 up. Yeah. Pretty easy scores. Surprising from where they were scored that maybe both of them weren't converted as well. But maybe it lulled them into this false sense of we don't have to be as intense in this game. We don't have to play at the same level that we had to play at last week when we lost, or the week before when we beat Wigan or what have you. They just clearly switched off at that point. And Wakefield stepped up and then stayed up. It seems like there was a lot of pressure put on by Hull KR in the last 20 minutes or so. So again, that talks to playing for the coach at Wakefield, because they showed resilience in that period. So and to come out and win and go up the other end, slot the drop goal to make it safe with a minute or 2 left, you got to compliment them, but say, Hull KR need to attack every game with intensity.
Yeah, they do, and they're definitely not out of this. The Magic Weekend games are in the offing. They've both Hull and Hull KR need to win this coming Monday, but then the Magic Weekend's looming in the offing, and it's not over for these sides yet. That's for sure. But they could really, either of those sides could really do with winning 2 now to get themselves properly into the fight.
Well, they're almost now in a position of needing to win 3 from 4, which is a big ask. Yeah. Or they would be if Wigan weren't so diabolical. So maybe they can get away with winning 2. What about the game you saw? The game you were at, David?
Well, it was great to be at the game. So the game was St Helens versus Leigh. Tom Grant was the referee. It was 12-6 to Saints at half-time. It finished 42-12 as the score blew out in the last 20 minutes to the Saints. Another game, another team these are the stats, doesn't make 1,000 metres against Saints. Saints made 589 more metres than Leigh at 2.8 metres a carry, better average game, and 5 clean breaks. For the winners, Regan Grace had a try, 5 tackle busts and 194 metres and 3 clean breaks. Sione Matautia, who had a very, very good game, 1 try assist, 6 tackle busts and 183 metres. There's a lot of competition in that back three now at Saints, and Matautia was left out of the 13 for the derby, and obviously has decided to step up to the plate because he had a great game. Alex Walmsley, 155 metres. Lachlan Coote, 1 try, true try assist, and 147 metres. Man of the match, however, was Jack Wellsby, and he doesn't get on the stats list.
Well, he had 2 tries and 2 try assists, but they're the sort of headline things that we all know about when we read about the games, isn't it? These are like the underlying story kind of stats, I suppose, in a way, aren't they? But yeah.
Absolutely. He was terrific again, and he's going to need to be on Monday. For the losers, Matthew Russell, 9 tackle busts, 173 metres, and the very impressive James Bell, 1 try assist, 42 tackles, 3.
I wonder why you're so keen on his performances all of a sudden.
He looked really good, actually, Mark, and the rumours are that he might be coming our way. But I tell you what, based on what I saw, he would not be someone I would be turning my nose up at Saints. I thought he was very good. Very good for Lee, who overall were very good. But anyway, we've got a fan view first from Tom.
Yeah, he said, something tickled me about Sidlow celebrating his try. Did he really think Saints weren't about to put 4 more tries past them? Calm down, Adam. Also, Lewis Dodd with the easiest try of the season, ? I don't know. Did you see some of the Catalans' tries against Salford?
It definitely wasn't as easy as that. It was a very sharp.
Oh, Jay Pitts' try against Hull KR was pretty fucking easy as well.
Yeah, it was poor piece of defence, leaving a big hole on your line with a nippy halfback.
They had like too many defenders stayed around Regan Grace. I don't know.
I think they probably thought he was going to ship it left for Regan, and he just picked it up and dropped over the line. Basically.
Well, no, Grace had got tackled, I think, had he? And extra men came over after the tackle was completed, and maybe they'd just overcooked themselves, and they never got back into any sort of shape, and there was a huge hole then, wasn't there?
There was a 6-foot gap between where the ball was and the next marker, and Doddy just slid through it. That was he deserved the try because he was the man that put Grace away down the wing in the first place, with a lovely right to left cut-out ball to Grace into space to make the break. Lee played really well. If Lee only had to play 60-minute matches, they'd be pretty damn competitive, I think.
That'd be awesome if they had to play championship sides.
Oh, very much so. I mean, honestly, they played very well. They defended well. They kept themselves in the game. Obviously Saints had rung the change a little bit for this match. They also were trying to pace the game differently to Lee. So Lee were making sort of substitutions after 20 minutes, etc. Saints didn't make their first substitutions until the last 10 minutes of the first half. Yeah. Walmsley played all of it. He was blowing through his arse after about 20.
Well, he must have been gassed after that big run he had when no one tried to tackle him.
No one was near him, and then Coote got the offload from him just before he got clobbered. But
shocker, Coote gets hit around the shoulders and acts like he's been murdered.
The cut on his head would probably suggest he was actually hit on the head, Mark. Saints kind of paced it slightly differently, and Roby stayed on the bench the second half. It was obvious that Saints were going to run out winners in the end. But I thought Lee were very competitive and played some nice rugby at times. Obviously, the big worry for Saints out of this is Lomax's injury.
That was the one thing I was going to ask about. How bad did it actually look, or is it just people trying to blow it up a bit? It was
bad. No, it was bad. But exactly, I'm not quite sure exactly how it ended up with being a hamstring, but he was in a very awkward situation, and it was clearly bad. I mean, he had to be helped off the field. He didn't limp off on his own, and he was straight down the tunnel. So God knows.
Over our side of the hill, we know a lot about hamstring injuries this year, and
we won't see him for the next 2 games for sure, in my opinion. If we get him back before the end of the season, I think we'll be quite lucky. So that'll be both our first choice halfbacks out, and we're not the only ones who've got injuries. I know that. But it does mean we're going to be playing with the kids in the half. So it'll be Wellsby and Dodd, I think, at Warrington on Monday, and against Catalan, which will be a big ask. But we'll see. There's nothing else we can do about.
2 exciting players who, you've been talking the last few weeks about how Dodd kind of revitalised your attack to some extent, and Wellsby, you're saying, was the player of the match in this game. So
it was 2 great players with a lot of potential, but you'd really like to have an experienced pro like Lomax alongside.
Coote is the most experienced pro.
Coote's good, so that is good, and when Lomax went off, Roby came on, and Roby made a huge difference straight away. Aaron Smith, I quite like Aaron Smith, but he certainly isn't James Roby.
Who is?
Roby made a huge difference as soon as he came onto the pitch. So the guys are not out there on their own. Wellsby and Dodd, they'll have Roby around them. They've got Coote, as you rightly say, around them. But it's if you're coming up against the likes of Widdop and Ratchford and Tompkins and Maloney and people like that over the next couple of weeks, it's going to test them out. Let's put it that way, Mark. We'll see.
So in the standings, Catalan at the top have 89%, with St Helens behind on 82% and Warrington in third on 74%. Those 3 are some way ahead of the rest, and you'd think it'd have to be somewhat of a... Mathematically, it's possible that Warrington don't finish in the top 3, but it's unlikely. You'd have to think it'd be a huge fall away for those 3 not to be the top 3. Wigan cling on to 4th with 57%, then Leeds and Cass move into the top 6 on 55% and 53% respectively. Both Hull sides fall out of the 6, they're both now on 50%. Huddersfield and Wakefield have 30%, Salford have 28%. Leeds relegation is now all but confirmed. They need to win out, including at Catalans away on Monday, with Salford there also losing all of their remaining games, which is frankly possible, and see a pretty big point swing too, so Lee are relegated. I'd sort of made the bit of an optimistic prediction of that I thought Wigan would beat Leeds and then be pretty much set with just one more win needed to finish in the top 4. My whole mindset around that is changing now. I can see Leeds and Cass making it into that top 6. It's difficult. It's really difficult to predict, really, isn't it? It changes week to week.
It absolutely is. Every single week's round of games now, teams are winning that you don't think are going to win. I don't think you can draw form. I mean, Wigan's poor form, you can draw a line through at the moment and say, look, it's pretty damn bad. But with the other teams, you can't draw a form line through them. They're winning one week and losing the next.
And Leeds seem to be playing pretty well through their injury problems, so I'm giving them a little bit of extra credit, which I did do last week as well. I think they might be the team that finishes 4th. Cass, we're going to see how they bounce back from a potentially spell without McShane, their talisman. We'll see. Hull have already lost. We talked about Reynolds and Cater. Tumavave, could he be out for a spell?
Yeah.
That brings more problems for them. So, and then the Robins went and lost at home to Wakefield, whose season's over. So that says that you can't trust them anymore. So
lost 2 on the bounce. And the other problem coming up now, of course, is the really rapid turnaround to Monday. I mean, we know with the Easter games normally, it's very difficult sometimes to predict what's going to happen on the Monday, on the Easter Monday games. Usually the scores blow out a bit because teams are knackered. You've got to favour, I think, sides that have got bigger squads and that have had maybe a little bit more rest in the season. But it's going to have that's going to have a significant impact on which of these teams in the 4 or 5 teams that are now fighting for the last 3 places.